Welcome, everyone, to the Kenya Wanam Movement, or KWM podcast.
Great to be here.
Today, we're doing a deep dive, really getting into a very compelling set of observations about what's been happening politically in Kenya.
Yeah.
Shifts in public mood, that sort of thing.
That's right.
And our main source for this discussion is an article titled ODM, the MOU Misstep. It comes directly from the Kenya Wanam Movement platform, the KWM platform itself. So our mission today is basically to unpack its key arguments. It traces this really fascinating story of promises made, political compromises, and how citizens have responded.
And it's, I think, a really crucial exercise for understanding how things like political power, public trust, and, these new social movements are connecting, especially now in the digital age.
Definitely.
This article, it gives a very specific viewpoint on recent events, and our aim here is just to explore its content impartially, to pull out the important insights for you, our listener, to help you grasp, well, the real complexities of these shifts.
Okay, so let's unpack this then. The article starts by looking at President Ruto's rise to power back in 2022.
Right, the campaign.
Yes, it paints this picture of a really well-orchestrated campaign, emphasizing how his team used digital platforms so effectively. What does it say specifically about, say, TikTok and YouTube? How do they use those to connect with young people?
Well, the article really underscores that it wasn't just using social media, it was more like they built the campaign's foundation there.
Oh, okay.
It describes TikTok and YouTube as direct channels, unfiltered messages going straight to the youth, bypassing a lot of the traditional media noise.
And the core message, that hustler nation vision.
That was powerful, according to the article. The narrative was all about lifting up ordinary citizens, the hustlers.
Challenging the status quo.
Exactly. Challenging the established political dynasties, promising a new Kenya. It positioned Ruto as this, well, almost revolutionary figure fighting against impunity and patronage.
And it worked, initially.
Oh, absolutely. The article suggests the enthusiasm generated by this digital push, this anti-establishment vibe, was immense, really foundational to his early support.
But then, the article points out how quickly that wave of enthusiasm started to, well, fade.
It did. It flags a clear turning point around 2024.
When those promises started feeling a bit empty.
Precisely. The article directly attributes this disillusionment to the introduction of Ruto's finance bill. That seems to be the key moment.
What was in the bill that caused such reaction?
Heavy taxes. The article details new taxes on essentials fuel, digital transactions, even basic food items. It wasn't just unpopular policy. The article argues it sparked genuine, widespread outrage.
And the people who supported him initially, the youth.
That's the fascinating part the article highlights. Those once enthusiastic supporters, students who were core to the Hustler Nation idea, they became vocal critics almost overnight.
So the online buzz turned into
fury on the streets, palpable anger, protests erupted. It was, according to the article, a really dramatic shift in public feeling. Undeniable.
And how did the government respond to this sudden backlash?
Violently. That's the word the article uses. Brutally, even.
Which, the source argues, just shattered that whole massive reform they'd built up.
Completely. The article suggests this heavy-handed approach, this willingness to use force against citizens, it fundamentally broke the trust that many had placed in the administration.
Did the article speculate on why they chose that path? Suppression over dialogue?
It doesn't dive too deep into the strategic why beyond framing it as a choice to quash dissent, but it really focuses on the effect.
Which was, in the
article's view, stripping away any lingering pretense of reform. It exposed a harsher reality of how power was being wielded.
Okay, so amidst all this, the shifting mood, the government's crackdown the article then pivots. It turns a critical eye towards the ODM party.
The main opposition, historically.
Exactly. And their controversial decision to sign an MOU, a Memorandum of Understanding with the Ruto administration.
Yeah.
The very government they were meant to be holding to account.
A huge moment. The article frames it as a major turning point.
Because ODM, you have to remember their history, right? Mass boycotts, street protests, fighting for constitutional reform. That was their brand.
They were the resistance, essentially.
So this alliance,
yeah.
How does the article interpret it?
It presents a pretty stark interpretation. The official justifications, things like national unity, stability, the article argues these felt less like genuine reasons and more like a cover-up for a political surrender.
A surrender. Strong words.
Very. And a key point the article makes is the secrecy. This MOU, it was all done behind closed doors, no public input, no consultation.
But ODM gained something.
Oh, yes. The reported gains were clear. Ministerial jobs, the perks of being close to state power, cars, offices, influence.
But at what cost? That's the question the article seems to pose.
That's exactly it. It strongly asserts that the party, once this symbol of fighting the system, effectively became, quote, complicit in the very system it had fought to change.
Complicit. How so?
Through silence. The article highlights ODM's deafening silence while those finance bill protests were raging. While protesters were dying, students being abducted, ODM leaders were quiet.
Despite their claims of working from within.
That claim, according to the article, rang completely hollow. It wasn't just a political misstep. The article frames it as a profound loss of moral identity for the party, a compromise that cost them their soul, so to speak.
And it details this transformation in the leaders themselves.
It does. It paints this picture of them embracing the perks, the luxury cars, the international trips, the bodyguards.
A stark contrast to their previous image.
A huge contrast. The article notes how they went from being these vocal rebels in parliament to bureaucrats suddenly praising government projects, attending the press briefings.
With, as the article puts it, smiles masking the discomfort.
That's the phrase used, yes. It suggests an internal conflict, perhaps, but outwardly they were part of the system.
And this silence wasn't just general. The article points to specific instances.
It does. It highlights issues like soaring youth unemployment in places like Kisumu and Kipra, traditional ODM strongholds.
Places where their voice would be expected.
Absolutely. And police crackdowns on protests in Migori, in Mathar, issues directly impacting their base, yet the article claims silence from the ODM ministers now in government.
The article's take is quite clear then. Perks in exchange for silence.
Explicitly, it states, the perks were evident, but the price was clear silence in the face of injustice. And this silence, it created a vacuum, didn't it?
Which was filled by
a new wave. Social media influencers, independent journalists, and importantly, these Gen Z protest leaders. They stepped up, the article argues, precisely because the established opposition had gone quiet.
a new form of activism emerging from the gap left behind. It's a fascinating dynamic. Let's take a short break here. We want to remind you that platforms like the Kenya Wantum Notum movement are vital spaces for these kinds of discussions.
They really are.
So if you have ideas about how to bring change to your community, your village, your city, or even the nation, we encourage you. Visit www.wanmnotum.com. Create an account, share your thoughts, and join the conversation.
It's about participation, isn't it? Getting involved.
Exactly. Now back to the article. After discussing the political shifts in ODM silence, it really confronts the brutal nature of the crackdown on those finance bill protests.
Yes, it doesn't shy away from the details. It talks about excessive force, live bullets being used, tear gas, water cannons deployed against citizens.
Indiscriminately, it sounds like.
That's the implication. And it goes further, describing protesters being detained, vanished, taken to unknown locations.
And the horrific discovery of bodies later on.
Yes, in forests, in rivers, described in the article as bloated and lifeless. It's a very grim picture.
And the official story versus the article's narrative.
The government line, as the article points out, was quick to label organizers as, foreign agents trying to destabilize things.
A common tactic.
Right. But the article strongly counters this, asserting the protests were homegrown, driven by local organic anger. A genuine grassroots movement.
Did civil society push back?
They did. The article mentions urgent calls from civil society groups for independent investigations into the deaths and disappearances.
And ODM's role in Parliament during this.
Their silence, the article argues, was telling. A profound failure to speak out against the violence, leaving this lasting scar on public memory.
The article even mentions death squads.
It does. It refers to reports of death squads roaming Nairobi, activists disappearing. Chilling stuff. And the core argument is that ODM's inaction, their failure to condemn this forcefully, is something the public won't forget. The cost, as the article puts it, was measured in lives.
A devastating critique of their compromised position.
A very sharp critique, yes.
And out of this darkness, the article highlights the rise of Gen Z, right? Using the story of Billy Mwangi.
Yes, Billy Mwangi, a 22-year-old student, known online for sharp political memes, satire, a voice for his generation.
His disappearance and death became a catalyst.
A major rallying point. The discovery of his body near Thika River. It just ignited something. Hashtags took off, online vigils, street graffiti remembering him.
And the autopsy suggesting torture, contradicting the official line.
That contradiction fueled the anger, fueled the suspicion. The article presents his story as emblematic of this Gen Z awakening facing down threats, demanding accountability.
The article also touches on social media's double-edged role here, doesn't it?
It does. A tool for mobilization and expression, yes, but also, chillingly, a tool for surveillance. The article claims it was used by authorities to track protesters, arrest them, silence journalists.
And it loops back to ODM here.
Yes, with a very serious accusation. It states that ODM ministers who once championed the oppressed were now effectively part of the system that surveilled and oppressed dissent.
Wow, so becoming complicit in the very machinery they used to fight.
That's the article's assertion, a stark illustration of how power structures can absorb even former critics.
So fast forward to 2025 in the article's narrative. What's ODM's position then?
Described as being in political limbo, basically adrift.
How
Their traditional base felt abandoned, the leadership was divided. Even Raila Odinga's attempts to kind of balance supporting the youth while praising the president's stability. The article says nobody was buying it anymore.
Credibility loss.
Completely eroded, according to this analysis. It also points to powerful figures behind the scenes, like Farouk Kibet and Oscar Sudi, allegedly wielding huge influence over appointments, even police actions, bypassing formal structures.
That's a youth wing.
Shockingly low turnout at their events, a clear signal, the article suggests, of just how much support and legitimacy had vanished.
So the conclusion on ODM is
That they'd fundamentally lost their moral clarity. Their political influence had just evaporated, leaving this huge leadership vacuum in the opposition space.
And what filled that vacuum, according to the article?
Something it calls the quiet storm of civil disobedience.
Explain that.
It argues that Kenyans, especially young people, essentially lost faith in elections as the primary way to bring change. They felt the system was rigged or ineffective.
So they turned elsewhere.
To direct action. Civil disobedience, mass walkouts, online boycotts. These became the new tools of protest, the article suggests. Powerful tools.
Even facing repression.
Yes. Despite swift and often harsh responses from the state, the defiance persisted. The article makes this powerful concluding statement. No regime can survive indefinitely under the weight of such anger and dissatisfaction.
Implying the current administration is on shaky ground.
It suggests the Ruto administration now survives on inertia. Not on popular support, but just because the system keeps rolling. It's a strong claim about the power of sustained public discontent.
Which leads to the article's final, really provocative thought. It suggests change won't come from the top down.
Exactly. It concludes that real change in Kenya will ultimately come not from leaders, but from the people.
So for you listening, that's something to really mull over. What does that mean for political engagement in Kenya? For civil society? If change bubbles up from the grassroots, how does that reshape power? How is it resisted?
It raises fundamental questions about the future, doesn't it? Will traditional politics adapt, or are we seeing the beginnings of something entirely new?
A powerful question to end on. And a reminder again, spaces like the Kenya Wantam Notam movement are crucial for exploring these very questions. So please, do visit www.wantamnotam.com. Create your account, share your perspectives, your ideas for change in your own community, your city, the nation. Get involved in the dialogue.
Your voice matters in shaping that future.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive, unpacking the insights from the KWM article, ODM, the MOU Misstep.
Yes, thank you. It's crucial, I think, to grapple with these complex dynamics, the promises, the disillusionment, the compromises, and especially the rise of citizen-led resistance. This article offered a stark perspective on that evolution.
It certainly did. Thank you for listening to the Kenya Wantam Notam Movement, KWM podcast.